We have been working with the Temminck's ground pangolin for just over 4 years now. When we actually first started working with the pangolin, we were averaging 1 on every 31 days of coming into the rehab. Now, 4 years later, we are on 1 every 8 days. It has increased dramatically over those 4 years. When we hear of an animal that has been poached, we have an amazing team that has law enforcement, so we can organize a sting operation. We go in as a potential buyer, and once we have eyes on the pangolin and the suspects, our team will then come into the situation and manage to confiscate the pangolin and arrest the poachers. We are getting a lot better sentencing for the poachers, which is really, really good. Law enforcement is understanding, and magistrates and courts are seeing the importance of these animals. But with the amount that are being poached, it's hard to keep up.
William and Nora were confiscated together, almost like clutching each other. Both of them were quite compromised. Neither of them were in good body condition. Both of them were dehydrated. They both had various health issues that had to be dealt with differently. Keeping them together and being sure that they would stay together was near impossible. So we had to make the separation there already, so that William had his journey and Nora had hers.
When a pangolin comes in from the trade, it's obviously normally very emaciated and dehydrated. So initially, they're not going to eat straight away, and they're not strong enough to go out feeding themselves. So that's when we actually have to tube feed them and supplement them.
We do a panel of blood tests on every pangolin that comes in, full blood counts, biochemistry. From those blood results and interpreting them, it gives you a good idea of how deficient the animal is in terms of nutrients, protein levels, electrolyte levels, glucose levels. A lot of them are hypoglycemic when they come into us. Top ones are dehydration, starvation, pneumonia, pancreatitis from prolonged periods of starvation, stomach ulcers, gastric stasis. So from not feeding and foraging for so long, their entire gut just stands still. X-rays are very difficult in them because the scales superimpose on everything, but you do get a good idea on what the valves are looking like. William was relatively stable in terms of medical condition. His body condition was quite poor. He was dehydrated, but he had no, at that stage, life-threatening diseases or illnesses. And only later on it became apparent what his little body had endured. Little pangolins we've often found bounce back quicker. So William initially seemed a lot healthier than Nora. But we were hopeful, and we were confident that they would pull through and go through to rehab and be released.
Pangolins are extremely hard to rehabilitate. They're not very good in captivity, as they do not eat any kind of supplement food. They have to forage for themselves. So when they wake up, we need to go and walk them so they can find their own ants and their own termites. But it takes a little time for them to get used to us. All they've known of humans is something very horrific, and here we're trying to save them, but they don't really understand that. So we do have to supplement the tubing and obviously milk if they're younger. This we wean them off of throughout their period of time here. When we get a pangolin in, sometimes we know where the pangolin has come from and sometimes we absolutely have no idea. So throughout their rehab process, we're really looking at the species of ants they're eating, the terrain they're enjoying, and just their general demeanor and personality of where we're going to place them back into the wild. We really want to see them gaining weight. A lot of them come in so emaciated from the trade that we need to get them back to their optimum weight at that age. And once we see that they're doing really well and that they've passed all the medical tests, then we can start the release process. We're taking them to a new environment where we're expecting them just to settle and eat ants, but really this is so new and so foreign to them. It's like us being just dumped in the middle of nowhere and just feeling completely lost. So we do put 2 types of tags on them, a VHF tag and a satellite tag, and we're going to monitor those pangolins so carefully. So for the first 3 days to a week, we're letting them explore, but we're watching them all the time to make sure they're doing exactly what we want them to do, which is of course eating a lot of food and finding their own ants and termites, and then finding a burrow that is suitable for them to sleep in and will protect them from any predators. Once they're showing us all those signs, we then let them out for the first night by themselves, and then we'll monitor twice a day. We do this for, again, about a month, so it's quite intense, and then once we see that that's all good, we bring it down to 3 times a week, then finally twice a week, and then once a week. So we monitor from 6 months to a year each single pangolin that actually goes back out in the wild. So it's a lot of work, but we have seen that it's the most successful way of doing it, and then we know that animal is really situated and happy in the area that we have picked for them.
William unfortunately didn't make it. His little heart just went without vital nutrients and energy for so long that his heart muscles were slowly wasting away. Then that bubbled over into his lungs failing as a result of his heart, and his little body just got too weak for him to actually carry on, and that's irreversible. There's in a normal setup with a pet, you can medicate them for the rest of their life and they're fine. But if an animal can't be released back into the wild, especially a pangolin that you can't just confine and feed every day, there's no life. There was no life for him after that. When we did Nora, we found that she was pregnant, very early stages of pregnancy. So she was actually mom to a baby and to an unborn baby.
He's actually not that small. There's his little back feet and his tail. There's his little front feet. There we're taking like a long angle of him. So there you see his little back feet, his little umbilical cord and his tail. That's one front foot. And then you get to his chest and his heartbeat.
Nora was successfully released on a beautiful nature reserve somewhere in Africa. She did very, very well in the initial stages. We monitored her for a few months, and the last we saw of her, she was a happy, healthy pangolin, most likely had her pup in the wild, so her and that little one could live a wild and free life the way they should. We didn't lose William in vain. He wasn't lost for nothing, I think. Nora still went on to be released And that's the success that a person needs to focus on. What we've learned with the work that we do, and pangolins are not easy. They're very tough just by virtue of them being the species that they are, that you have to hold on to the successes and the wins. Learn from your losses, use those as learning curves and move forward and take that into your next one.